like a unboxing on this channel. This has just literally arrived. I haven't opened it. But I think I know what's in it. What do you think, viewers? I did give a passing mention to it previously. Bubble wrap and a bit of tissue. Is the suspense killing you? I know what it is, but you don't. But I bet you've got a good idea. This is the one-handed shuffle. And there we have it. Oh dear. Another freehand pipe. Seems to be in reasonable condition. It looks like there's been a bit of a clenching there. Mind you, that is entirely to be expected. But it hasn't punctured the pipe. A Dr. Grabow freehand. No idea what those gouges are. I think that were they maybe one for Chris over at Herriot Pipes. Are they just for decoration? But I think you'd agree that the bird's eye grey is extraordinarily pleasing. I'm not keen on the gouges. I've seen them on a number of pipes. Oh, baby squirrel. You come onto the deck to say hello. You don't seem to mind me being stood here at all, do you? Hello friends, just had a nap. I've now got back up. Got whiskey arriving. It always comes this time of day, I always miss it. Never mind. Let me press my gong. If I don't press my gong, I'll talk too much. Well, I hope you enjoyed looking at my new pipe. I've got it here. I'm going to smoke it. Odd looking thing really, but smokes well. Got an extraordinary draw. Now these were designed to be used with a filter. I have no filters and have no desire to put a filter in. I found that a lot of pipes, when you put a filter in, affects the draw somewhat, which I don't like. I'm not even sure that they do you any good, do they? As you don't inhale, or not supposed to at least. So here it is, yes, the Grabow from the US of A. Know nothing about them. I think they're pretty budget, middle of the road budget. But are known to be good smokers. And for the price, it was cheap. I thought I'd get it. And if I get bored of it, I might just do a freebie handout again. It'll never replace my Ben Wade. That's glorious. I hope you enjoyed last night's video. I'm still exulting in the antiques haul of yesterday. Still on the tawny port. And inside of this, I'm going to put some of my Rattray's exotic pattern. I absolutely love it. I'm going to run out of it soon, which is not very good, is it? Well, that's not quite true. Probably got about 50 grams left. But I'm going to have to do another shop, I think, abroad to get this. I might get hammered that time for customs and excise, but I might have another go, see how I get on. I know that the is it Piper 1X1? I don't know. Nice fellow, lives up in North Yorkshire. I love listening to him because he's got a great voice. And well, he talks about places I used to go all the time when I lived in the Dales. And I think he's the son of a farmer. Anyway, why do I mention him? Oh, he got stung terribly. The bill was utterly huge. I mean, well into 3 figures. For about 6 tins of tobacco. I don't think he watches this channel. But anyway, my heart went out to him. And I don't think he's going to bother getting stuff from abroad. It is a gamble. It really is a gamble. But anyway, I'm going to fire this little girl up. See how we get on. Very good condition it's arrived in. So I don't like those gouges. I'm not even entirely sure what they're... I mean, they're hardly decorative, are they? There's 3 of them. Maybe they're... I was going to say to assist the grip. But the figuring on the briar is pleasing. The very basic pipe. I think Americans, you'll know this particular type of pipe. If you'd like to chime in on the comments and let me know what you think. It's a sort of middle-of-the-road pipe, isn't it? It's not high-end. Anyway, it is what it is. And things are as they are. And when you accept that things are what they are, and it is what it is, one experiences a certain amount of tranquility. Haven't done a great deal today, friends. After the last few days where I've been out, working quite hard. I put that Japanese scroll up. I mean, that was no effort. I just hung it on the beam, slightly off centre. But it won't stop me meditating. I could shift the whole meditation system up, but then it'd be too near the sort of the doorway. And I don't know. I like being tucked in, and I like the meditation mat being central. I think I can live with it just being off to the one side. Anyway, what I thought I'd do today is read you another chapter from my book, as I've only just got up again, and I'm still half asleep. If you remember, we left. Where did we leave it? Oh, we were at Thornbury Towers, weren't we, with the Jessops? And they decided to extend an invitation to John Reeves to their Christmas drinks party. And Patrick Jessop, the youngest son, not happy. Sees John as something of a competitor as an antiques dealer. But he said he'd do it anyway. Deliver the invitation. So that's where we left it. Are you sitting comfortably? Jolly good. And then we shall commence with chapter 6, I believe it is. Chapter 6, Hunter's Moon. John Reith stood back with satisfaction. The second of the two stable doors had been rehung successfully. "Well, Major," he said, "we may be up and running yet." He planned to renovate the tumble-down bar and stables, as he needed somewhere to restore his antiques. The dog looked on inquisitively, but was of little practical use. They both drew deeply of the crisp winter air, which left a trail of white mist as they exhaled, the bright sun softening the covering of snow that had settled upon the last of the renovations, which were now all but complete. John had repointed the old stone walls and replaced parts of the slate roof. All that remained was for Alex Proctor, the local electrician, to call later that day to connect the electricity supply. Meanwhile, John was to attend yet another auction. He only had one mission that day, and that was to secure the purchase of a pot-belly stove. The auction would be down market from Westfields. However, John was not concerned. He was not there for the antiques. The majority of its goods appeared to be principally drawn from house clearances. Department stores were a thing of the past since Reith had discovered Beaconsdale's. It was from this auction earlier in the month that he had secured the winning bid on an American fridge, which now sat rather incongruously in his English kitchen. He was hoping to score such a victory again and provide a much-needed heat to his refurbished buyer. The auction house had none of the finesse of Westfields. Housed in an old Baptist chapel, there was ample space to offer its goods. The roof that was raised in robust hymnology was now a shrine to Mammon. Despite the lack of high-end business, the usual crowd of scratching chickens would be there. If there were anything of significance to be had, a bid would be left with the auctioneer. It wouldn't do to stand shoulder to shoulder with the riffraff. John was not minded by such snobbery and made his way over to the cast-iron stoves. There were two of them. John squatted before the small pot-bellied stove and inspected it for breaks. It was more than adequate for his needs, he thought to himself, and he was sure that he would place a bid. Aesthetics were not his primary concern, but he did require something capable of heating his repurposed buyer to the correct temperature. No matter how skilled a French polisher was, it would prove impossible to work in a space that was either too hot or too cold. It had to be just right, or the polish would dry too quickly on the wood, or, if too cold, would dry too slowly. There was less formality in this auction. John spotted a rotund lady of indeterminate age swelling her already formidable torso by tucking into a fish and chip supper directly under the auctioneer's rostrum. Despite the stink of dark vinegar filling the air, Owen Beaconsdale conducted the auction unperturbed. He knew his auctions were not grand, but they kept his wife in new dresses and him in pipe tobacco. "OK, lot number 170. What shall we say? Put it in 100. 100 do I hear?" Reith waited. "Come on, quickly. 50 then. OK, 30 I have. And 5, will you give me 40? 40 where?" John shuffled slightly to catch the auctioneer's eye. "Come on, ladies and gentlemen, it's worth more than that. Selling. Thank you, sir," he said, pointing his pipe at John. 45 I have. Any more?" His pipe came down with a thud. "Name?" Beaconsdale barked. John stood tall and with a confidence that caused the room to stare, filled the small chapel with his rich baritone voice. "Reith." "Thank you, sir," Beaconsdale said, as he turned to his accomplice, who was taking notes of Reith's name on the bidding sheet. "Now, moving on, swiftly. Lot 171, where shall we start?" John was more than pleased with his bid, and anyway, he couldn't afford a new one. There was nothing else to keep John at the auction apart from a bottle of vintage port that had found its way into the hitherto teetotal chapel. John recognised the vintage, and it was a good one. How in the blazes did this find its way in here? John thought to himself as he smoothed the dust off the label. It was a bottle of War's vintage port 1960. John tried in vain to brush the dust back over it. He knew War's, the oldest of the Symington family estates, produced a port of unparalleled quality. This won't be cheap, he thought, as he put the bottle back on the shelf. Christmas is not far off. What the hell? John momentarily went out to check on Major, and on returning, noticed the bidding was about to begin. Lot 201, a fine bottle of vintage pork. Look, it's still covered in its original dust, joked Beaconsdale. Where shall we go with this one? I have several commission bids. Who'll start me at 20? 20 I have, and 2 and 5 and 8. John nodded his head. Thank you, sir. Surely 30. 30 I have, 32 anywhere? Reith looked up from his catalogue to see where the bidding was coming from, and noticed at the opposite side of the room an attractive young lady waving her cheque-book. She was dressed in a pair of riding joppers and a green quilted jacket which contrasted beautifully with the shock of auburn hair that framed her fresh country countenance. Unruffled, Reith bid on. Yours, sir, proclaimed the auctioneer loudly. Down came his pipe. Again the chapel resonated with Reith's deep voice. Reith. Well, that's 2 in the bag. Not a bad day's work, he thought to himself as he made his way over to the kiosk to pay. Many sale rooms did not permit the removal of items until the auction had ended, and this was one of them, and as such John found that he had some time to kill. Noticing the cafe over the road, he realised that he was now hungry. Right, time for a bite to eat. After finishing his pipe and chips, he wiped his lips and drained his tea. John noticed from the cafe window that the auction house was beginning to disgorge, and thus, squeaking the cafe stool aside, John returned to gather his new belongings. Eventually, a friendly porter assisted John with a pot-belly stove. Together they heaved it into the back of the Land Rover. Finally, Reith returned from the chapel with his bottle of port and placed it carefully onto the shelf within the dashboard. He got in and started the vehicle when suddenly he noticed his fellow contestant stepping into her Morris Traveller. Good God, he thought, as her shapely form, barely concealed in jodhpurs, entered the wooden-framed estate. John had no time for girls of late, and anyway, the only ladies near Hunter's Moon had fluffy white coats and 4 legs. But Lorna embodied something entirely different, and it wasn't a Swaledale sheep. Lorna Stroud indeed possessed rare charm. Her pre-Raphaelite features were beautifully drawn from beneath her autumnal hair, and bright green eyes illuminated her porcelain skin. She was the daughter of the local farmer, and had left a trail of broken hearts throughout the dale. As her vesture indicated, she was rarely out of the saddle, and from childhood her first love had always been horses, certainly not men. At home farm, horses were a way of life. Her father, Alan, farmed sheep and cattle, but being encouraged to diversify, he allowed Lorna to set up a small livery. Lorna hunted regularly with the local pack, and had raced twice under rules at their local point-to-point. Alan was married to Vera,
and together they worked the farm that had been in the Stroud family for 5 generations. It had withstood its ups and downs. They had survived the latest outbreak of foot and mouth and were nearly brought to their knees not 10 years hence when the herd was discovered with bovine tuberculosis. The Strouds were not hugely well off. Lorna had attended the local schools, but she didn't go without. Alan had been forced to sell some of his fields, enabling the farm to keep afloat, but survive it did, and their finances were sound. They continued to live gratefully in their large farmhouse, and awoke daily to the best countryside that God could afford. Lorna had been unsuccessful in all her bids, and the small trailer that was tethered to her Morris was empty. She began to reverse her vehicle slowly from the sale rooms and lowered her window to check behind. Reith was also exiting the car park, and before long the cars were abreast. The noise of John's Land Rover engine caught Lorna's attention, and she suddenly looked up at him. John had his elbow perched within his open window and nodded at her trailer and said, "Bit big for a bottle of port." No sooner had he said it than he had regretted it. "Very bloody funny," she retorted, noticing John Reith's mischievous yet handsome smile. She was in no mood for humour, and with a juvenile scowl that made her look younger than her 32 years, continued to reverse the Morris out of the car park and headed home. Here endeth the epistle for today. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. I'm not a particularly good public reader as such. It's quite something, isn't it, to sight read music and sight read from a script. But I hope I got away with it. I've no idea what time it is. The gong hasn't gone on my timer. I can only assume I'm either out of battery or I'm within time. I might even be able to address you further. Not that I've got anything to say. But that's chapter 6. It's quite a good exercise reading it out like that, because you see the flaws or words you might want to change or add. But I think it's holding together. What do you think? So far, anyway. I'm beginning to discover there might be a bit of a tannic taste with this port as well. Or at least I did yesterday. Could have been the tobacco. Have you had a good day? The sun's shining here again. I watered the plants, and they certainly need it, don't they? I repotted some of my tobacco. If any of you are concerned how the tobacco is going, wonderful, isn't it, the tobacco crop? It's going very well. I planted out some more Virginia seeds today. Well, I say planted out, I didn't. I put them in my incubator. And what I did was I took from my incubator some that had germinated very well, put them into small terracotta pots, and they've gone in the greenhouse. I also repotted the ones I first put in and put them into a much larger pot and would give them a bit more room. And as I mentioned on a previous video, I've got some 2-gallon pots arriving I'm going to fill with compost. And when I get bigger leaves, they're going to go into those. Very slow growing, if you're thinking about growing tobacco. Not very fast at all. And, well, it's a great project because, you know, it's not the sort of thing you would do, is it, normally? I'm far more excited about my tobacco than I am my Japanese radish and my lettuce and tomatoes. What I want to do is go and buy, I keep forgetting, I keep going to supermarkets and I forget every time. Normally what I like to do about this time of year, earlier possibly, is buy that potted basil that you get in supermarkets that's already got grown, you know. And I think they're supposed to be single use. But what I do is, I put them on the windowsill, continue to water them, and I just take the odd bit of basil and just let the thing grow. And I normally get I get basil for the rest of the spring and summer. Practically autumn. So I want to do that again. I don't want to grow basil from scratch. Although I suppose one could, really. I'm not sure what else to plant out. Have you got any suggestions? I don't eat. I've got some mange tout on the go. I thought about runner beans. Not really bothered about carrots. Well, I've got some onions as well in. And I separated those out and put those in, some of them, just see how they get on. But the pigeons like to come and just, they don't even eat stuff. They just like picking stuff up, don't they? Throwing it around. But I'm not really a gardener, so this is all new to me. Loving it, really. And I've also ordered today from China a kilo of beeswax. Because it was cheap, really. But it's the small little granules of, well, they're not that small, of beeswax. And I think they're designed for people who make their own candles. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to make up some polish. One of the viewers mentioned in a previous video that you should do that and sort of liquefy it slightly with some gum turpentine, and that makes the best polish, so that's what I'll do. Although I don't really care about lifting dirt, so I'm not sure whether it needs to be turpentine, gum turpentine. I quite like a bit of dirt, a bit of patina. But we'll see. I could probably dilute it with any form of oil, as long as it nourishes. Perhaps you'd like to say something in the comments, you furniture restorers. Do I really need to go with the gum turpentine? And that's been it today. Nothing else has arrived other than this, which I'm rather enjoying. Not a bad pipe. Got a great drawer on it. Plastic stem. Prefer the vulcanite. I don't know why, because it always oxidizes, doesn't it? I bought some of that magic eraser, those sponges which you had to dip in water. That was another tip. So that's deoxidized my vulcanite stems. It's great. It's like and there's no chemicals. It's just they're like a micro abrasive, and they get anything off anything. So I bought a whole pack of those, which is fun. Oh, there's the 5-minute warning. And that's about it for today, my friends. No sermon. Sometimes you get a sermon, sometimes you don't. And because I've just had a nap, a siesta, my brain isn't functioning. What did I watch on telly last night? Can't remember. I have been watching Lovejoy, who's an antiques dealer. And there are series after series after series after series after series. It's on Ustream, those people who remember Lovejoy. And if you've never seen Lovejoy, begin at the beginning and work your way all the way through. It's fantastic. You learn a lot about antiques. And it went right through the 80s, possibly to the 90s. The first 2 or 3 episodes that are a bit stiff, but then, you know, you get into it after that. Well worth the watch. If you do watch them and you've never watched them before, let me know how you get on with it. I don't know what I'm going to watch tonight. I haven't really thought that far ahead. I know I need to do some more shopping. I'm starting to run out of things. In fact, I don't even know what I'm going to... probably a bit of chicken tonight, I think. Anyway, my friends, I'm going to love you and leave you. May God go with you and keep you. Mother John, signing out on another beautiful day in South Shropshire. And God willing, we'll all gather together, my small congregation of friends, tomorrow night. Cheerio.